Are you addicted to romance like we are? Follow the journey of two soulmates in the sweet love story by Molly Summers. The kiss was magic. Sebastian was amazed at the depth of his feelings for Erica and the way that having her in his arms felt so right. Her lips molded to his, and he could still feel her palm flat against his chest. The warmth of her touch radiated through his shirt. When they pulled away, she was breathing heavily again, but not from panic this time. She looked at him with eyes that were a shade darker, and lips slightly red from his kiss. "Wow," she said softly, "you took the word right out of my mouth." Sebastian released her, and she sat back in her seat. He watched as she looked at the steering wheel, seemingly deep in thought. He'd expected her to give up after her last attempt to drive. The terror in her eyes had been intense, and he didn't think she'd want to go through that again. But when she glanced over at him again, there was a steely determination in her eyes. "I'm going to do this," she said confidently, and he couldn't tell if she was talking to him or herself. It didn't really matter, he decided, settling back into his seat and buckling up again. This time, Erica paused to take a few deep breaths before she put the truck in gear. She tensed up as she eased off the brake and the truck started to move, but she didn't slam on the brakes this time. They moved agonizingly slowly at first, but this time, she was able to handle it. She drove halfway across the plot of land, just going in a straight line, but it was a heck of an accomplishment considering how stressed she was at the prospect of driving at all. "You did a great job," he told her, and Erica turned, squealing as she threw her arms around his neck. "I can't believe I did it." Sebastian patted her back. He liked how excited she got about things like her new sign or driving his truck. Her happiness made him feel lighter somehow. As she went back to driving, he decided that this was the perfect way to spend an afternoon. The day after she drove Sebastian's truck, it was time to open her new business. Erica had set up the place like a showroom, with displays showcasing party decor, a wedding reception seating arrangement, and a large photo collage displaying some of her past work. She had spent some time over the last week forming relationships with caterers, bands, and cleaning services. Anyone that provided a party-related service in Castle Beach or the surrounding area was now a contact of hers, and she had a large round table with brochures and business cards. One of the caterers provided some snacks for her grand opening: marinated goat cheese, spinach and feta fillo pockets, and small antipasto skewers. People kept filtering in and out, checking out the new business, talking to Erica and snacking on the food. The place looked good, and she was proud as she looked around. It had taken most of her savings to get the business started, and a lot of that was spent buying party supplies that she kept in a storage unit, but it was going to pay off. Today was her first day of business, and she'd already signed up a client before noon. It was a wedding, her favorite event to plan. Her emotions were running high as she met so many people, keeping a smile on her face and giving the same rundown of her party planning services over and over. In the early afternoon, she finally experienced a bit of a lull in foot traffic. That was when Sebastian showed up. Erica hadn't seen him since he'd dropped her off the day before, and their goodbye was awkward. They'd kissed and, while it was amazing, Erica had started to regret it during the drive back to her place. Sebastian was a good man, and she was attracted to him, but she had a hard time letting go of the past, whether it was moving past the trauma of her car accident or trusting a man again after the betrayal she'd dealt with in her last relationship. Now, when Sebastian met her eyes from across the room and a heart-stopping smile spread across his face, she felt a muted version of the fear that had made her panic yesterday, as if she was on the verge of doing something dangerous, like falling for the man. She hadn't planned this, and the instinct to protect her heart grew stronger as Sebastian got closer. "Looks like business is going well," he said, stopping beside her. Erica was leaning forward, straightening the flowers in the centerpiece of her wedding table display. A strand of hair had fallen into her face, and when she turned to look at Sebastian, he reached out to tuck it behind her ear. His fingers brushed her cheek, and the action felt too intimate. She reacted without thinking, her inner turmoil about her feelings for the man affecting her judgment as she straightened and took a step back, out of his reach. The look of hurt confusion in Sebastian's eyes made her stomach drop. He dropped his hand to his side as he understood that she was rejecting his touch. It was uncomfortable, and she hated that. Ever since she'd met him, things between them had been so easy, and she didn't want to lose that. Erica opened her mouth to say something, Maybe to explain that she had a rough romantic history, maybe to tell him that she really liked him. She wasn't sure how to explain this moment of wavering, but before she figured it out, the bell above the entrance to the shop rang as 2 more customers walked inside. Erica's eyes left his as she glanced at the newcomers, and he took that opportunity to slip away from her, heading right back toward the door where he'd just entered. As he walked by the women that had just arrived, they both greeted him warmly, but Sebastian didn't stay and talk to them. Instead, he excused himself, glancing back at Erica on his way out the door. She felt the strangest sense of loss as he walked away, and she thought about yesterday. The tender understanding that he showed when she had been in the grip of her panic attack had touched her heart. Why couldn't she get over her last heartbreak and let Sebastian in? She wanted to, but she couldn't seem to let it go. She sighed and stepped away from the table, but when she glanced down to make sure the tablecloth wasn't wrinkled, her eye caught on something that hadn't been there before. A small piece of wood was lying there. Picking it up, she felt a lump in her throat as she realized that it was a starfish. Sebastian had whittled it for her. She thought about last week, when he'd fixed her sink. She'd lightly suggested that he whittle something for her. He'd done it. Of course he had. In the short time that she'd known Sebastian, hadn't he proven that he was the kind of man that she could count on? What the heck am I doing? A sense of urgency took over, and Erica started to make her way toward the door, hoping that he hadn't left yet. "I'll be right with you," she told the customers that were walking around, looking the place over. She didn't wait around to hear their responses. Instead, she hurried outside, hoping that this time she could find the right words.
Indulge in a timeless tale of love and new beginnings with this free romance. Book by Molly Summers. Get your copy free at romancereader.com/prequel.